2014. A year where movies happened. And one man went to see some of them and then started to say words about them. That man is Robert. And here is where he reviews stuff. I think he's talking about me. That's me. See? I told you. Another year has passed, and that can mean only one thing. I have to tell you what I thought of the movies that came out this year. According to Wikipedia and my own vague memory, I saw 44 of the 220 movies that came out this year. And just as mankind did themselves, we will start from the bottom. We will rise to glory, but first we must crawl from the acrid cesspool of film and evolve into glory after being touched by the hand of Jesus Lord with the worst films of 2014. Honorable mentions. The first honorable mention is I, Frankenstein, because I watched it and I have practically no memory of it, besides the fact that it was boring and goofy. The second honorable mention is Hercules, because it was worse than the Kellen Lutz version of the same premise. The Kellen Lutz version. The third honorable mention is RoboCop, because the original was so much better and there is no reason for this movie to exist. Number 5. Divergent. I had a pretty good idea of what to expect when I rented this movie. It looked like one of the hundreds of movies that have come out recently that are optioned from subpar books into subpar movies that inexplicably do good even though they're not particularly good. Little disclaimer, I'm only guessing on the quality of this book because I've never read this or any other book. This movie is like Twilight and Logan's Run had a baby, but then they realized they were related and the baby came out retarded. It's about a girl who's apparently special because the sorting hat machine can't decide if she's Gryffindor or Hufflepuff, so she goes to join the badass group and tries to be a badass. But she can't really pull that off even though the movie tries to make us think she can. I don't know. She's too cute to be a badass. Maybe try... Yep, Cancer Lady. And then this movie only kinda ends, because they already know that the people of the world are stupid enough to go and see a sequel even before this movie came out. Will I be seeing the sequel? Probably. But I need movies for the worst of next year too. Number 4. Dumb and Dumber 2. It made me really sad to do this. I have been a massive fan of Jim Carrey since he first spoke from his butt. And his subsequent film career has always done more to cement my appreciation of him than to diminish it. And the original Dumb and Dumber was appropriately stupid but outrageously funny. But even with that pedigree, I don't think I would consider myself one of the people that was calling for a sequel to this movie 20 years later. The chances are way higher that they're going to do more harm than good. And that's what they did with Dumb and Dumber 2. There are a few laughs to be found in this movie, but most of their attempts are just trying to rehash jokes from the original as fan service. But this fan did not feel serviced. He felt more like he had seen those jokes before, and he could see the rest of them coming from a mile away. Standing on its own, this movie may have done fine, but it was not standing on its own. It was following one of my favorite comedies of all time with complete mediocrity. Number 3. Godzilla. If it is your decision that you need to see Godzilla rebooted again, I recommend you just rent the movie and skip to the last half hour. That's when this movie finally decides that it's time to show their titular character and have him lay an ass whooping on 2 radioactive bat creatures. Also, if you're going into this movie expecting to see a giant asexual iguana and Matthew Broderick, you'll be pleasantly surprised to see that it's actually Godzilla. So why is it in the worst films of 2014? Because I'm not just reviewing the last half hour. I'm reviewing the entire movie. And if you watch the entire movie, you're going to have to sit through about an hour and a half of boring family problems between Walter White and the brother and sister from the next Avengers movie, who are married and have a kid in this movie. So not only does this movie tease the audience way too hard with the reveal of their main character, they also support incest. And that's why it's so low on my list. Number 2. The Raid 2. The first Raid movie was some of the best action I had seen in the movie, and also benefited from the fact that I had no expectations for the movie. The Raid 2 did not benefit from such a surprise, so there is a chance that that's the reason that I didn't end up caring for it. It might also be the fact that this was the sequel to a non-stop over-the-top action movie that had a couple good action scenes itself that were separated by hours of boring story stuff. Nobody cares, get to the face punching. Should I be checking my watch and nodding off during the sequel to The Raid Redemption? No, I shouldn't even be able to use my hands because they're too busy touching myself. But that's not what happened. Number 1. The worst film of 2014. Ouija. This one was bound to happen. I had no interest in seeing this movie, but a friend had to go and request it. But I was actually grateful, because I had not been getting that much sleep at the time and this was a great place to take a nap. So technically, this movie should have had a leg up on scaring me because it's probably easier to scare me when I'm nodding off to sleepy time land. But it still couldn't pull it off.
Did you kill Debbie? We're done!
The only thing this movie had going for it is that the cast did a fairly decent job pulling off poorly written characters. But that's not what makes a good horror movie. If someone asks you to rent this movie, move the planchette over to no, and then to goodbye. That person is not a real friend. As the great bard Drake says, we started from the bottom, and now we are here. Here at the best films of 2014. Honorable mentions. The first honorable mention is Tusk, because I love Kevin Smith, and I love the podcast that spawned this movie. And this movie is so insane that it needs to be seen. Hashtag Walrus yes. Honorable mention number 2 is Maleficent, because I wanted to see a live-action Maleficent, and I wanted to see Angelina Jolie do it. And then I did. Honorable mention number 3 is X-Men Days of Future Past, because X-Men. Number 5. The Lego Movie. When I saw that they were making a movie out of Legos, I probably scoffed, made a jerking off motion with my hand, and walked away. I like the Lego games, but they couldn't possibly support an entire movie, could they? Turns out, yeah, they can. This movie was a great kids movie, but even people that the law insists have to be charged as adults can enjoy it. A movie with a solid message and some pretty good laughs all the way through. And a really excellent cast of voice actors. Too numerous for me to name here. Did you get all that? This movie made me realize that you can't judge a movie by its poster any more than you can judge a book by its cover. Or so I've been told. I still judge books by their cover because I look at them and realize that they're books and then I go, ew, and I go play a video game. Number 4. Captain America, the Winter Soldier. I probably don't need to say much about this movie for my followers to know how I feel about it. I could probably just say Marvel movie and give away the fact that I enjoyed it. But that's not always true. I mean, there were 2 Ghost Rider movies. It definitely could be said that it's the case here because I enjoyed this movie, but I'd like to believe that it's actually just a great movie. Of course there was great action, but I also think that the story was really good, as with most Marvel movies recently. And what happens in this movie can be felt throughout other Marvel movies and even a great Marvel TV show. Number 3. John Wick. Let's face facts, Keanu Reeves can be kinda hit and miss. You could be walking into The Matrix, or you could be walking into The Matrix Revolutions. And when you put him in a movie with a boring title like John Wick, you kinda lost my attention. That title is just some dude's name. Some dude I don't know or care about. But I went to see this movie in the theaters because I had nothing better to do, and I have never been happier that I have no social life. My lack of things to do and people that like me got me to see one stylish, badass movie. This movie starts in such a heart-wrenching way that will equally affect the people that care about humans and the people that care about animals more than they care about humans. Like me. And this opening makes you not only okay with the ass-whooping Keanu is about to unleash, it makes you pray for it. Add that in with some great style and some sweet action, and you can find out that Keanu still got it.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
Number 2. Guardians of the Galaxy. The real joy of this movie comes from the fact that it's a fairly unknown property on which it's based. Marvel would never have let a director like James Gunn have the freedom to play with a movie the way he did if this were one of their more known properties like X-Men or Avengers. But thankfully, they let him do his thing. This movie was equal parts funny, exciting, and heartfelt, and entertaining all the way through. And the cast was incredible. But I think the most surprising person in this cast was Dave Bautista as Drax. Obviously a professional wrestler would be able to do the action parts well, but he also lands the comedy and the emotional parts of his performance better than I expected.
His people are completely literal. Metaphors are gonna go over his head.
Nothing goes over my head. My reflexes are too fast.
This movie was fantastic, and I can't wait for another one. Oh, come on! Number 1. The best film of 2014. Big Hero 6. I expected that I would enjoy this movie, but I could not foresee how much. I'm gonna let you in on something. Anyone that knows me knows that I am the manliest man who has ever manned. I mean, you can tell from watching my other videos that I watch all the sports. I also fix cars with tools and make them work real good, and I scratch myself in public, and I demean women with words. And I tell you all of this so that you know how effective this movie is when someone so ultimately manly as I cried not once, but twice during this movie. Well, technically, the first time I cried was during the short film that preceded the movie, and the second time was during the movie proper. But I think it's fair to lump them together for this review. This movie contains some genuine laughs, some great action, a few heartfelt moments, and a great message to bring it all together. Disney killed it with this movie. I would put it up against any Pixar movie any day, and I would put it at the top of my list for the films of 2014. So those are my films of 2014. Think I'm wrong? Think that your picks are better than mine? Think that I'm crazy? Think that you're the first person to think I'm crazy? Well, feel free to let me know in the comments below. You won't. So until next time, my name is Robert, and the films of 2014 have just been reviewed. I have been a massive fan of Jim Carrey since he first spoke from his butt.